What's up, guys? Kunal here. Bulls on Wall Street. Interesting week last week. We've rebounded the previous week's destruction that we had, led by the semiconductors. And so we ended up with a very interesting week. And I think this week is going to be a huge tell into the future of what's going to be happening in the markets for this period of time. As you guys know, for the last few weeks, I've been saying we're going to enter a kind of period of digestion, which I do believe we are going to be, with the large amounts of ups and downs while we kind of distribute and digest this price action that we've had since November. But I will say we had some really, really good action last week, led by the semiconductors, up 9.25% on the SMH. So in today's video, what we're going to be doing is digging into the market indexes. And then what we got to be doing is taking a look at the individual stocks. So let's first start with the QQQs, which was up about 4% last week, which is a pretty dang good week, right? And so you can see like this incredible. We had the turnaround Monday, which was kind of an awesome setup, right? Because you had, the big Friday flush and then a little flat day on Monday, and then we just started to pick up some steam, and we even had a reversal day on Thursday on some bad news. And so that's also an indication of bullishness. The market tends to surprise people. Anytime we get bad news out, we eat it up and we go in, as it should be. We are America. We're not bear flags. The rest of the world is a bear flag, but we're always bull flag in here. But we're into this kind of chop zone now. I think Monday will be tricky because we are at the 20 SMA, and then we got the 50 SMA on top, and then we have all this price congestion, right? So, the odds of us breaking out and going crazy is very small. But can we, kind of marinate ourselves back into some kind of grindy range? I think that is highly likely, especially with the strength of, the push last week. We got to give that into account. Will we break out, though, next week? I mean, that would be probably the lowest probability scenario. So just be mindful. We've got a ways to go. A lot of charts were damaged, but they're starting to show signs of life, and I think we got to be just mindful of that. The SMH, after that big push down, completely rebounded and did basically what we would call a fugazi setup. So we had this breakdown setup, this waterfall breakdown setup that really can start like nasty bearish acts, bearish movement. And we broke down and then we just remounted right back through, over the breakdown spot and even over these MAs. And so, we are a little bit short-term overbought on the semiconductors, but I thought that this was very, very bullish action for the semiconductors. And as you guys know, where the semiconductors go, the rest of the market goes, because Apple Computers is not the most important company in America anymore. It is the good old NVIDIA. And when that thing is popping and the semis are popping, then everything is good. Interesting thing of last week, FXI up 7.5%. China was left for dead about 3-4 months ago. We were talking about the collapse of the Chinese economy, Evergrande, this grand, debt, right? ZZ Ping doing this, that. And China's making a roaring comeback. They're officially entering bull market territory, up over 20% off its lows, and a lot of China stocks are looking good. They're looking cheap, and we need to keep an eye on this sector here. Your BABAs, your PDDs, your JDs, they're all starting to perk its pickle. Now, we've been fooled by China in the past, but we're finally over the 200-day moving average, which we haven't been in since really August of 2023. So something to keep an eye on. Your Mag 7s also had a rebound. So a lot of good things happening, into the market. Up 5% on the ARC. There's a lot of cool stuff happening here, and this still looks garbage. The IWM still looks garbaggio, but the rest of it is starting to pick up some steam. So let's go into this, and we also have a whole host of earnings plays to do. So let's first dig into the watch list. I'm going to just go from order of importance. CGEM, big breakout on Friday. You've got a nice flat action into the whole afternoon. If this thing breaks out 25.50 at the open tomorrow, I think this can be a go. Watch for the liquidity on this because it might trade a little bit thin at the open. It doesn't have to, but it's did 5 million shares on Friday. It may trade out a little thin on Monday, at least at the open. Snappy chat, right? Big little mamma jamma on the earnings. And let's see if this thing pulls back and we get a red to green. It gapped up a lot, so it just didn't have any intraday range. But usually the day twos, the range will start to pick up a little bit because you won't have that big ass gap to contend with. RMD, an earnings play that's covering out quite a few levels of resistance over here. Really had about 40 points of range, 144 million share float. Even though it's a $30 billion company, has a pretty low float. This has got a chance tomorrow. I want to hit this thing for a red to green. A-Lab, I think this is my favorite for, one of my favorites for tomorrow. Let's look for, a pullback on this one, a red to green. This has got a 100 shot on it, like just right there. We're almost there. Old Zim has had for those of you guys that like something a little bit cheaper, 13 million shares of volume coming out of range. Some good intraday range here. I think you keep an eye on this one if you like some of these cheapies. You've got probably a 15 spot in the cards on this one. Kava, what can you say about this, man? 6 million shares. I got a volume pop coming out of, this trend line. I think you can take out these IPO highs. This is still one of the hottest stocks in the market. It trades well. It trades clean. Following all its EMAs on Friday. Just some great action on this bad boy. I think we want to hit, any dips on Google too. Let's see if this thing pulls off at the open. Now that you are still at all-time highs. This is going to be, the new market leader out of probably the Mag 7s for a little bit, not in terms of movement, but it's the only one at all-time highs right now. Oh, Reddit. I think, Reddit may have a chance tomorrow. You've bottomed out here. You've got a little bit of a range starting to develop. Let's see where this thing goes. We got ourselves a shot here. If we get this range break, we've got ourselves a nice, good, God-fearing Christian range. Let's go with maybe about 46 on this thing, and we'll see what's up. App lovin'. Who doesn't like a little app lovin' here? Let's roll with this one. You got a boom, pull back into the 50-day moving average. We got a nice push on this thing. Dude, 74. I think you got a little bit of a range break there. I think we got some good stuff on this one. Ball Corp had an earnings breakout. This one looks like, it's got some decent enough range, fairly mid-cappy name, but you're breaking out like a multiple years since 2022 of range. I think this should have some action for us tomorrow. Love the old look on it. I think you could take off Riley in future. They're getting a little bit extended. I want to put my hands into this bad boy. Let's look at the hourly chart on this just to make sure we've got a good spot. But you can see here, we're running right into it. You don't have earnings till 5-8, so you got a little bit of time on that bad boy. We've got some chance here. You're hugging at the 50-day moving average, and then you're starting to curl your way right into that 18 spot. Dude, we got a good spot on this one. VRT you can take off. I want to hit this one on dips. Give me an inside day on this one, right? So I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. It's up too many days in a row now. But what you have here is like when they're up that many days in a row, it doesn't mean that the play is necessarily over. What you want to do is get an inside day. You get one narrow range inside day. It allows everything to tighten up. And then what happens is you start to push through. You can really get going. Cenex, nothing sexy here, but this sector's been hopping. It's been hopping, and you got a spot here. 1 tap, 2 tap, 3 taps. I think it's probably worth a point or two over the coming week. General Electric, 1, 2, 3 inside days now from its earnings day high. I got a 164 trigger on this bad boy, and I think it's ready to party. This Dow still got it. It ended up doing a little bit of an inside day on Friday. It did peek its head through for like 10 seconds, but then, had an inside day. But I think if this ends up taking out 50.26, you got yourself some action on this one. MPC. Put in an alert right at 200. If it can get over 250, then that's the trigger. It may need a test into the 50-day moving average, but if it doesn't, then watch this 250. If that takes it out, it's good to go. And I got the UAL too, right? We're really tightening up on this bad boy. You got a nice spot on this one. I think that one, and then NEM also. You got an inside day after earnings, and PI, inside day after earnings, right? So inside days after earnings are awesome. Like if you get an earnings pop, right, and you get an inside day on them after that, you can get some sweet setups on this. Like, and you can see if you run an inside day scan, there's quite a few names on it right now. And I would run like, you don't want to hit through all of this, but right, go through a 5-day sort to see which ones had the most momentum. So if you see here, right, you got PI. Watch all these. PI, Hasbro, right? Find these, like DB's doesn't move much, right? It's ATR is 42 cents. We're in the business of range, right? And so if your ATR is 42 cents and most of it is done on gaps, that's not going to be really our tour de jour. Like see this true's inside day, but it's a weird location, right? So we want these things that are a little bit more in the clear. Even something like, RCL could work. See, these are not sexy enough, right? We want to really see like a nice pop and then an inside day. So these are a little bit more range bound. Inside day, I think this one's ready to pate. Dun, 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 dun. ARMK. Nah, not hot enough. Good. So I think PI and the other one are the two best. Now, when you look at these, to kind of rank these, I think like this one might have the most range. Watch some of these IPOs. If the market's, speeds up, we want to hit some of these IPOs. And then, obviously, NVIDIA had a nice remount on Friday. It typically makes these big moves on Friday, so it's very possible it does an inside day tomorrow. But keep that on eye as a tell. The interesting thing I'm kind of curious about, SMCI has come all the way back to where it started, on that nasty down day. So I'm wondering, its earnings are just, tomorrow's going to be the 28th. So its earnings are coming out. So if it fills up this gap, do we get a short on this? Or was this just like some fugazi so that people could buy it up and, ramp it back? Yeah, I'm not really sure, but I'm curious. I think the easy money's made on the long side, right? You had the oversold bounce on it. So now, I'd be curious. Like if it really ramps and fills this gap, like I wouldn't mind taking for a short the day before the earnings and see if we can catch a little bit of that like kind of pre-earnings jitter flood. But keep an eye on this ALAD. I think Cava, if the market's really going to heat up, then these IPOs should, they should give you some really good range on these things. And so let's be cautiously optimistic tomorrow. The market showed some signs of life, but it doesn't mean it's out of the woods. Like, it doesn't mean that you're in a bull or bear or anything. Sometimes you just go sideways for periods of time. And I suspect that's where we're at right now. So let me know if you have any questions, and I'll make sure to get back to you in a timely manner.